we didn't really figure out how we were going to decide who goes first here. Should we flip a coin?
I'll go first.
Okay. Fine, I guess we're just going to let that
Do you
happen.
have a coin next to you?
I don't.
Okay.
Hello, and welcome to May the Review Be With You with Nick and Joe. And today we're playing a game. We're playing a game that we just invented. It's called Add It to Your List. And what Nick and I are going to do today, we're going to try and convince each other to add different shows or different movies to your list. We all have a list. We all know what we're talking about when we said this. We're not sure if we'll ever get through the list, but things are constantly being added to it all the time. And Nick and I are going to try and make ours a little longer today and hopefully actually watch that which is on our lists. But before we get to that game, Nick, how are you doing today?
Fantastic. Can't wait to convince you to add this incredible TV show and series to your list.
Mm-hmm. We'll see. We'll see if you are convincing or not, because that is part of this game, right? And I feel like we've all sort of played this game when we're out socializing and hanging out with different people, and someone cannot wait to tell you about this thing that you've never heard of and you don't care about. And they go on a tangent for the next 10 minutes about why you have to watch this thing that you've never heard of before and have zero interest in, but now it's on your list because you're polite.
For the record, Joe's One Piece tangent is way longer than 10 minutes, and yes, I have sat through the whole entire thing before. Not enough drinks on the planet.
Well, shame on you. I will save my One Piece pitch for a different day. I don't think I've ever broadcast this on this podcast, but I am a Straw Hat. I love One Piece. I live and breathe it. I'm going to turn this room into a One Piece room at some point.
Nick doesn't even know what Straw Hat means. Continue your rant, Joe.
God. Jesus Christ. We'll get there. Today's not about One Piece, though. Today we're going to talk about, like I said, what shows we think the other should be watching, or movies. And before we get to that, just wanted to get into some things that have happened this week. We just got through the 5th episode of Rings of Power, and we will have a more proper review of the entire season 2 as it concludes. We just finished our midway point on Rings of Power, so if you haven't heard that, go back, take a listen. It's pretty good. We got some theories going on that, and definitely some strong takes and opinions. Nick's got a particularly strong one right now on Celebrimbor. I know you're such a big fan of him, Nick.
It's essentially all his fault. I've been talking about this on Threads a lot with everybody, and he's not the only one at fault, but the deeper and deeper that they go with these ring making, the worse and worse it gets for this guy. And I just don't I don't think it's going to end very well for him. So
yeah, I mean, we know it's not going to, right?
Well,
but,
I like to try to speak for the people who haven't read all the books and all the things that Tolkien has written. So there's a large group that don't know.
I'm sorry, who's watching Rings of Power and hasn't seen Lord of the Rings
yet?
Well,
you know what I mean. Like, we know what happens, but we don't know like how exactly it happens necessarily.
I mean, sure, yeah. I mean, it's kind of like It's kind of like watching the prequels for Star Wars and being like, you know what? I like this Anakin kid and the cut of his jib. I think he's got a bright future ahead of him.
Hey, he didn't. Spoiler alert.
Well, he sort of did. The lava was very bright. Very bright future.
I trusted you.
I loved you.
We're not doing that right now. We have a specific thing we're doing.
Do you think we'll get an I trusted you out of Celebrimbor?
I hope so.
Might, maybe.
Oh, that'd be great.
I will say, I'm having a fun time with the show. I did not think that we were going to get a reference of Belrog again so early. I really hope we get Belrog at some point this season. Do you think it's just a tease for now, or do you think it's going to be like part of the finale? Man,
I have no idea. I think there's so many. I mean, we know that there's other seasons, right? So it's so tough to gauge what they're going to decide to drop in these last 3 episodes now. So I think it's going to be exciting. I'm wondering when we're going to get the One Ring, when we're going to see that. I don't know. There's speculation that it's soon, but I don't know.
I have to believe that it's not this season.
I agree.
Unless it's already been made. I have a theory that's why like the dwarves are already reacting. Like or not Celebrimbor. The Lord of Gifts hasn't put anything additional into the new rings. He's just already manipulating people who have the rings on with the One Ring.
Interesting.
That's my theory.
Interesting.
I don't know. We'll
All
see.
right. I like it.
So in other news this week, the last trailer for Venom 3, The Last Dance, dropped. Nick, you were telling me you have not seen that trailer yet, right?
Correct. Yeah, I have not seen it. I enjoyed the first two Venom films, but I didn't love them. So it's not one of those trailers that when it gets released, I'm like, I have to watch this right now. You know, like I'll watch Venom 3. I'm sure we'll review it. I know you're a fan of those films, and like I said, I do enjoy them, but it's not the drop everything kind of trailer for me personally.
No, I feel that. I think the Venom movies in general are like solid enough. Like they're fun popcorn flicks, right? They're not something I'm dying for either. However, I do love Tom Hardy's chemistry with Tom Hardy as both Venom and Eddie. It's super fun. It's like the worst buddy cop movie ever, and I'm here for it. I love how toxic their relationship is. It's super fun. We're getting a really popular Venom villain in this upcoming trailer, or not the trailer, in the upcoming movie. But we got a look at him, sort of, in the latest trailer, Null the Symbiote God, and that I'm kind of surprised that we're doing that. There's some people talking about whether or not that this may connect to the MCU, since like this type of villain it's a Thanos type villain for the symbiote storyline or like the Venom storyline. Like he's like the big bad, you know? So it feels weird that we're just getting him in this one movie, but we got Carnage in one movie and it was done and over with. So maybe that's exactly what we're going to do again.
All right.
I don't know.
Interesting.
In any case, I'm excited. Looks fun. I forgot it was coming out. I completely forgot. I think this is the first year that Sony has had more comic book movies than Marvel has, right? Like, because we've had Madam Web, we're gonna get Venom. Is Kraven coming out this year? I know we've got our trailers for it, but I don't recall off the top of my head if it's actually.
No,
coming
I don't
out
remember
this
the
year.
dates, but I think it's safe to assume it does come out this year. I think it's towards the end of the year.
Yeah, not a whole lot of MCU stuff outside of what were we reviewing just earlier?
Deadpool.
Oh, yeah. How can I forget? Freaking
Come on now.
one of the best Marvel movies in a long time.
Goodness gracious.
It just went bye out of my
Kraven
head.
the Hunter comes out December 13th, for the record.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So yeah, 3 different Sony films this year. I think it's the first time that's ever happened where in their franchise, they outweigh the Marvel stuff, which I don't know if we're better for that, but that's definitely the timeline we're in.
We've got Agatha coming out, though, TV show-wise, for Marvel. That'll be cool.
That's right. Oh my God, that's a Marvel project that I wasn't excited for it for a while, and now that I've seen trailers for it, I
think that's gonna be really cool.
I didn't know. So apparently, I've learned recently that the Agatha show is part of what Marvel is looking at as like a trilogy of stories, starting with like WandaVision. Then the second is, of course, Agatha all along. And the third apparently will be the White Vision series, and like all 3 of these will like connect in like one solid story.
Nice.
Apparently, which made me a lot more interested in it to know that there is actually like a plan for this. It's not just going to be like a one and done series,
Very
right?
cool.
I mean, it might be, but it connects to something overall,
Yeah.
right?
Hell yeah.
I think the last thing I saw, at least in like comic book movie stuff, there was some news about the Green Lantern show that James Gunn is, of course, trying to get out there, and we are trying to figure out who our Hal Jordan is going to be. Apparently, it's not going to be Josh Brolin. Josh was like, I'm not doing it. You nerds have had enough of me. I'm done.
I guess dubstep never dies.
So yeah, I'm not sure who they're going to go with for a Hal Jordan, but I don't know. Who would you want to see like in that role? Obviously not Ryan Reynolds.
I have no clue. I mostly because I can't get Ryan Reynolds as Green Lantern out of my head. You know, it's got to be a tough role to cast because one of how like poor the attempt was with the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern, but then two, I think that the success of Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. And then all of the bad publicity that DC's had doesn't really help casting that role. Like, James Gunn, obviously, fantastic. But the jury's still out on his DC universe because we really haven't seen anything yet. So, that's tough. I got nothing. I honestly have no clue. I hope you have something.
I do. So, like, I think that if you're gonna, all right, so if Josh Brolin was being targeted for this, then you need somebody who's like obviously like, you know, able to be like the strong straight man, which like he's very, very good at, right? So I think you're looking for like a Matthew McConaughey, something like that,
Man.
Who can still like deliver like, you know, comedic lines. Personally, if I were to like wave my wand and have a Hal Jordan, this will never happen because he's already been involved in like the DC universe. But I think Chris Pine would be like a perfect Hal Jordan.
Oh, nice.
Because he's got to be like handsome. He's got to have like the jaw, and like you got to believe that he just like walked off the set of Top Gun. But like he's got to have like that strong like confidence and like straight man.
You just mentioned the word Top Gun, and I thought of, what about Glenn Powell? He's having a moment right now.
Very much so. Actually, that's a good choice. I could dig Glenn Powell. Him or Matthew McConaughey?
I don't. There's no way. No, Matthew McConaughey. I do not want to see him play a superhero. That it would be just too weird for me. Can't do it. No, nope. Mm-mm.
All right, Nick.
Moving on. Sheesh.
All right, Nick. I believe it is that time.
It's time.
Where we're gonna play on your list. Okay, so as I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, the idea is Nick and I are going to pitch to each other our elevator pitch for what show or movie we think should be on the other's list. We'll get our opportunity to do so, and then the other person will get to ask 3 questions about show or movie to see if it actually interests them or not. We will judge the success by this, whether or not we're actually going to add it to our list. So that's where we're at. We didn't really figure out how we were going to decide who goes first here. Should we flip a coin?
I'll go first.
Okay. Fine, I guess we're just going to let that
Do you
happen.
have a coin next to you?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. It's 2024. No one has coins on them anymore.
Jesus. Suggest a coin flip. Doesn't even have a coin. Not even prepared.
I don't know. You seem like a coin guy. I don't know.
Oh, my coin is buried underneath the house in the backyard.
Good to know. Find it when all of this goes to hell. All right, Nick, give me your pitch. What do you got for me?
All right. This is a show that you absolutely need to add to your list. Silo, TV series on Apple TV, based on a book.
Oh, yeah, bro, I've seen it.
No, you haven't.
No, I haven't.
No, you haven't. I know you haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it.
You damn liar. You need to see it. Based on the book series.
You got
based
me.
on the book series by Hugh Howey. 3 books starring Rebecca Ferguson and an absolute stellar supporting cast. Rashida Jones, Tim Robbins, Ian Glenn, Harriet Walker, Common, many, many more. In a ruined and toxic future, a community exists in a giant underground silo that plunges hundreds of stories deep. There, people live in a society full of regulations they believe are meant to protect them. Basically, it's a society that has lived underground in the silo for hundreds of years. They've never been outside, and there's only one way to go outside, and you have to speak the words, quite literally, I want to go outside. And it's like basically putting yourself in jail, but except worse, because the second you go outside, you suffocate because the outside world is toxic. That's season 1. There's only one season so far on Apple TV, but for you people who hate starting TV shows that only have one season, the good news is season 2 comes out November 15th of this year. So we're very close. It's the perfect time to start a new show and then get the second season coming right up after.
That's a solid pitch, Nick. That's a solid pitch. Okay. I am interested. Let me ask you this. My first of 3 questions. Who's the most interesting character on the show and why?
Tim Robbins plays Bernard Holland, who's the head of the IT department in the silo. The thing that's really interesting about him is the IT department is not as it seems. And so he has to essentially partner with, the mayor and sheriff of the silo. And there's a lot more like political turmoil at play here. And I don't want to give away anything else, but the IT department, not just IT.
Making IT like shadowy figures is actually a really good idea. What is it about the show that drew you in?
We were looking for something new to watch, and then we had heard a lot of awesome things about like Apple TV and a bunch. They've been pumping out TV shows. I don't know. We haven't seen too many. Obviously, like Ted Lasso is fantastic. The morning show is really good. And we were just looking, and we liked the summary. Is like super interesting society that essentially lives underground because above ground is too toxic. And so really interesting way to tell a story, right? When you've got this complete, like, you've boxed yourself in to this, 100 levels of a silo underground. And that's where you have a story to tell. You can't go anywhere else. So really interesting kind of premise.
So in television, when you have characters that don't leave a room, that's called a bottle episode. And usually I always love a bottle episode because you get some really great introspection from characters in those episodes. Like The Fly in Breaking Bad is a great example of that. It's probably my favorite Breaking Bad episode. So the concept of that revolving around a show in and of itself is interesting. Nick, what is the worst part about this show?
For me, the worst part was the cliffhanger, the end of season 1, because it's been over a year and a half since we've seen it.
Brutal.
But the good part for you and everyone else watching and considering adding it to the list is that season 2 comes out in 2 months. So you don't have to deal with the long waiting period that I did, and you get to check it out.
It's a decent pitch, actually, and you know me, so what chords to strike here. I am definitely interested in said pitch. I will add it to my list. Congratulations. All right, homie. Yeah. All right, homie. I got one for you. Okay, so my pitch. So Nick, you like fantasy. You'll enjoy Lord of the Rings, right? We enjoy the fellowship, the party that goes off on an adventure together, right? Okay, so imagine the party, right, together, and they go into a dungeon, and we're out of food. What should we do? Should we go back? Should we eat terrible elven bread? I don't know. Maybe we should eat the monsters that we find in this dungeon. I am pitching Delicious Dungeon, which is an anime that was released earlier this year. It was part of a manga that was published 10 years ago. I had never heard of it before. I had just caught wind of this from a friend, and the concept alone I thought was ridiculous, and I was like, you know what? I've raised my eyebrow at that. I'm sort of interested. That's one way to handle a hunger problem, and every episode is exactly as I had stated. As they progress through the dungeon, they find a new monster, and they find a delicious way to cook it. It is both equal parts adventure fight anime, and then also a cooking show. It's both of those things, and it takes the cooking actually very seriously. It's not going to teach you anything as far as cooking goes, but it'll introduce like great cooking concepts. And like looking at the food, I'm like, this, I would love to eat what they're eating right now. Okay, so the actual like summary of the show is it starts with a party that's deep in a dungeon, and they're fighting a red dragon. And the main character is about to be eaten by said dragon. However, at the last second, his sister pushes him out of the way, and she transports the rest of the party away from the dungeon. She, however, is eaten by the dragon, right? So, because of the properties of this dungeon, apparently, death works a little differently. There is still a chance to save her while she's in the stomach of the dragon. They're playing basically by Dungeons and Dragons rules. Like the whole show is Dungeons and Dragons, but like without the dice.
Awesome.
So they decide they have to go back immediately to go find her because I think they have a month before she's digested by the dragon.
Oh my
God. However, they don't have the supplies they need, but the main character suggests, what if we just eat the monsters that we encounter on the way? Now, this is not a normal idea by any stretch of the imagination. Everyone this character says this to is horrified by the idea of eating disgusting monsters. But they meet a dwarf who very much reminds me of Gimli, except he's a savant at cooking. He's basically, if you took Gimli and Carmy from The Bear and combined them into a character, that's who he is. And they're progressing through the dungeon to get back to the dragon, and as they do, they overcome different challenges, and they eat them. Now, you wouldn't think that you could get a whole big plot out of this, but let me tell you, I was very surprised. And with that, I will allow you to ask questions.
Well, despite it being anime and me not being a huge fan of the genre entirely, I am intrigued. This is going to be an uphill battle for you, though. Because not only is it not
I know, I'm taking a big
This
swing.
is a movie as well? Is that what you said?
No, it's
a show. Okay.
It's a show.
How many seasons?
It is, so the first season just came out. It started in June, and we are, the whole first season is 24 episodes. It is a lot. Let me tell you, it does not feel like a lot. Each episode is like a little morsel that you get to enjoy as you imbibe on like this immaculate dinner that's been provided for you.
I'm realizing that I wasted one of my questions. Not wasted, but one of my questions was not, how many seasons is it, but it is a question. So technically that now counts as one of my 3 questions. So I'm going to have to nix one of the other ones I had for you. Did that to myself. But I feel like the audience and me needed to know what we'd actually be adding to our list since you didn't mention it.
Fair enough.
So,
right.
Anyway.
Like if you were pitching someone One Piece and you didn't say it was over 1,000 episodes, that's sort of a dick move.
Sorta. Similar shows or genres you've enjoyed?
Oh, great question. So I guess like to be fair, if you were to compare it to like animes, it actually feels really different. It's really refreshing in that way. The animation comes off very different. Like the drawing style doesn't really feel like anime. And a lot of anime tropes are kind of absent in this show. However, the adventure aspect is really fun. It's a really creative show. I don't want to give away too much, but I am a sucker for great world building. And this is a show that really loves to take a concept that sounds familiar to you and enjoy it in a different way. For example, there's an episode where they come across living armor, right? And the main character says, "We should eat the armor." And the other character says, like, "You're an idiot. Like, it's armor. You can't eat it. It's metal." Only for us to discover that this armor, this living armor, it's not possessed by a ghost of some sort. Rather, it is a mollusk-like creature that has crawled into the armor and is using the armor to defend its colony. It's basically a hermit crab. It's a hermit crab that has taken over suits of armor. That's brilliant. I love that idea so much. That's so fun. And then of course, they eat the crabs. It's great. So yeah, it's a very creative show and it's very funny. It's not afraid of taking a serious situation and just like stabbing a dumb joke in there.
My last question for you. What are the show's strengths and weaknesses, and how do they balance out overall?
The show's strength is its characters and it's like dynamic. It's got the main 4 characters have a great energy together. Of course you got your straight man who's your dwarf, and then the other 3 characters are chaos. They are just absolute chaos. And watching them all react to each different dungeon obstacle is just a really enjoyable time, especially when the food is being presented. And there's always a discussion on whether or not it is a good idea to eat a creature at all, because of the implications they might get sick. And then there's the ethics. Like, they get into the ethics of things. They're like, well, what if it's like a human-esque creature? Like, are we really gonna eat that? It gets into all of that, and that's super fun. So I would say the biggest strength is its characters. A weakness is, I don't think as you start the show that you necessarily get a good idea of what the whole story is going to be about. Because like when I started it, I thought it was just going to be like a fun like monster of the week per episode, and it starts that way. Eventually, and I would say this actually plays into a bit of a strength, eventually there is a very dramatic twist that I legitimately did not see coming. And like, for those who watch way too much TV and movies, like I'm sure you relate to this, eventually you become jaded and it is hard for you to resist predicting what like the ending or the twist of something is going to be, right? I straight up did not see this coming, especially for how delightful this show is and how dark the twist is. It legitimately hits very hard. It was a great setup, but I would say getting to that point, because like that point is the true hook of the show, I think. It's the true hook of the story. And it's like maybe like, I'd say it's at the halfway mark. So if it's 24 episodes, it's probably around episode 12. I enjoyed like the lightheartedness, honestly. And like at first I just kind of had it on as a background.
It's a tough one.
Let me tell you, it's worth it. I will just leave you with this. I would not pitch an anime to you that I did not think you would.
That's a good point. I'm gonna put it on my list.
Shit, we did it, America.
But it's going like
we landed a man on the moon.
It's going like I'm skipping like 10 spaces, and then I'm putting it at the bottom. You know what I mean? Like I might fill in some stuff above it on the list because it's an anime.
You're interested, but not enough to stop what you're doing and go watch it.
It's not like this is up next on the list. It's on the list, but it's like in times of desperation, or I'm going to watch it by myself because this is definitely not something I'm going to watch with family. So
probably not.
So
no.
definitely just my own, which is good. I need those. That list is actually much shorter. Things I can watch by myself. So it actually helps your case because it's higher on that list. So
may I ask, what was it that I pitched that you were like, I'm sort of interested in that?
A cooking show in a dungeon, and it's an anime, and I want to see what kind of delicatessen meals they make up. Okay, I'm interested in the meals, and also I'm starving right now. I'm really hungry, and I need food. So like, you're hitting me at the right time.
The fact that we're doing this around dinner time was not an accident. It's a weird show, but ultimately very enjoyable.
Love it.
That made both of our lists. Hopefully it makes yours. Let us know if it actually does. The way to reach out to us, Nick, how can the people talk to us if they want to talk to us?
So you can find us on YouTube, of course. Hit subscribe, please. Join us as we continue to talk about our favorite TV shows and movies. We're on Threads. We love having our weekly and daily conversations about whatever's like streaming or new releases, things like that. You can also find us, of course, like on Instagram, but mainly YouTube, Threads, and then wherever you listen to podcasts, hit that follow button. And until next time,
may the review be with you. Peace.